All right, this is SSL Family Dad with Simple Sustainable Living, and today it's layout and planting time. All right, so let's catch you up with where we're at. So we had the path, if you're following along, we built with the discs of wood, and we've got our wood chips put in here. We've got strawberries planted all up by the house there, whatever ones are alive. We got them on sale because I think they were all half dead. So we may get a few of them to live. And then we have peas planted all along the house, which I'll build a trellis later when I need to. And so now we're ready to get into the rest of the garden. Now, We've cheated off camera a little bit and gotten a lot started. Yesterday was Memorial Day, and this is the latest I've ever put in a garden. But it's all right, things are going in pretty well. We had a lot of things started downstairs, and so I think we're gonna do just fine. These are all the peppers that we had started in the basement under the homemade lights, and using a lot of that homestead box stuff, the soil and containers and things like that. And then we have these are tomatoes that we started inside. Now these, unfortunately, I did not water them a few times and they almost died. And so they aren't looking too great, but they'll probably be all right. So what we've been doing is laying everything out, just using the string and some sticks and stuff like that, just to get a general idea of paths. We're trying to keep a main path into the garden here, and making some different garden beds around in different areas. And then this here will go over to a gate that will lead out to the yard. So this is 5 feet, a little more than 5 feet, so I can fit my lawn tractor and trailer in here, or wheelbarrow or whatever. We put the rabbit trees over here, and one of the SSL family kids, Kayla here, did a rabbit garden. So she's got all kinds of rabbit food planted in here for her rabbits. And we've pretty much annihilated that whole pile of compost and moved that out into the garden and all these various places. Up by the house here, we have rows all along the garage actually. And these are potatoes and onions and carrots and corn and lettuce, all kinds of different things. Up there, we've got broccoli and cauliflower. And along here, I have sunflowers, which I'd like to plant 100 sunflowers this year. That's my goal. So I've got a lot to plant from seed, and we'll see how well those do. I also have this spot back here. This is where the beehive is and where the pig shelter was, the temporary pig shelter. I'll be moving that out of here soon as well. Well, a lot of people have asked about the bees. Well, I'll give you a sneak peek. There's nothing coming in and out of there. So unfortunately, that kind of probably answers that question, but I'm going to do a video detailing what happened with them. But this area back here is really shaded for the majority of the day. And when you're planning out a garden, you know, that's the most important thing is sunlight. I don't care, you know, if you have the worst or best soil in the world. I don't care if you take the best care of everything. I don't care what you do, what kind of method you use. If you don't have sunlight, nothing's going to grow. Even things that grow in the shade need some sunlight. And so how do you tell where to put your garden? You know, what if you're trying to plant it out in the winter, or what if you're trying to plant it out in the fall or spring, and you're like, oh, where's the sun going to be? Well, there's an app for that. So let me show you what I use to kind of plan out things and figure out where I'm going to get the best sunlight. And when I'm planting this area back here, that's going to make a big determination on what I plant, because I know this doesn't get as much sunlight. So let's see if it's going to get any. Alright, so the app that I'm using here is called Sun Surveyor Lite, and it is available in the Android Play Store, and I'm sure it's available in the Apple App Store as well, or something similar to it at least. But basically what it allows you to do is it works with your camera, GPS, and compass, and motion sensors and all that good stuff. So you can tilt your phone and get different angles, as well as rotate, and it will show you, based on the direction and position that you're standing in, exactly what angle the sun will be at any particular time of the day. So this is current, and you can of course move the slider along the top or along the bottom here to move the sun to any position, and so it'll give you an idea of exactly where the sun will be. Now it's really handy when you're trying to plan your garden earlier in the year, so you can actually change the date. And let's say you're it's January or something like that, you can set it to, all right, where's the sun going to be in May? And then it'll go ahead and it'll adjust the arc of the sun and sunset and sunrise times to that date. So we can kind of judge all summer long way ahead of time where your sun will be in your garden, and see if there's anything in the way. So it's really nice because you can kind of move the sun around here and see if, okay, well, there's going to be a tree blocking it at 5 p.m. or, you know, the garage is going to block it, in my case, in the morning at certain times, and then it's going to start to get sun about here. And so you can kind of judge how many hours of sunlight each area will get. You generally want to have, 6, 8 plus hours of sunlight for a good garden space. The more the better. That's kind of a minimum, I would think. But for your shade crops like leafy greens and things like that, and snap peas and cooler weather type things, you could probably go with a lot less than that. So this is an excellent planning tool for getting your garden started. So we're going to be doing the deep composting or deep mulch, deep mulch method for the entire garden. So it's kind of like a back to Eden, I guess you'd say, but in our first year we're really just using it as a cover to keep weeds down. This is all freely sourced mulch, wood chips from our local park. I talk about this all the time. You should never buy the bagged stuff, just go get a truckload of it. We're using this for all the paths. We're going to do about a 6-inch deep in all the paths at least, and then probably about 4 inches deep around all of our plants. So this is kind of an example of the rows here. We've hilled up everything so that we can control the soil and things like that for all of our crops. And then we'll be able to mulch in between them. This will actually be a lot deeper, right up to the top of those hills, and then eventually right up around the crops as they grow up. So we'll be doing that in just about all of these areas with all of our crops. Now, potatoes and things like that, this is the first time I've really grown potatoes since I was a kid in anything other than raised beds. And so I know I'm going to have to hill these up and make these bigger as I go. These are all potatoes in these 4 or 5 rows here. So I know that's going to be a thing that I'll have to kind of learn and do as I go here. So I probably won't put as many wood chips in between these.
I know I did last night when she didn't even know. How am I going to keep them out here?
Well, this one looks pretty done. All right, so basically what I've been doing here is tilling up a section at a time, and I've been using kind of a row and hill method for most things, as I mentioned. And I just piled compost out here, just the compost manure I've been using, and tilled it all in. Somebody asked, why didn't I just put all the compost out here first and then till it in just one time? Well, since this is the first time this area has ever been gardened, I really wanted to dig deep and fluff that soil up as much as I could, turn it over and mix it all in. And so I also wanted to get rid of all that grass. So that's why I chose to kind of till it twice, or more than twice. Interesting thing about the soil is, or this, the area we're in here, this is a really kind of a swampy area, but there's no rocks. I mean, I shouldn't say no, there's very few. I found maybe a handful of rocks in this whole, process. It's just different where I grew up as a kid. The soil was just all clay, and we used to till through the garden and have a pile of rocks. Till through the fields, and farmers that have rocks piled up everywhere. But not here. All right, so fast forward about a week and a half here. We had just a busy couple weeks, and so I wasn't able to videotape all of what we had here. Ended up doing a lot of the planting late at night, and so the rest of the garden I did in the dark or with a light out here after work and stuff like that. So not very good for video, but let me just take you through some of the things that we've added since everything's pretty much planted now. So I went through some of the stuff already. This is the little rabbit garden, and a lot of her stuff is already coming up. The lettuce, I think she has different kinds of lettuce here, and celery, and then some bush beans. Those are all coming up already, in the spinach. We planted those tomatoes that you saw there, so we've got kind of a border on the outside of those tomatoes, and then on the inside here we have all of these melons and pumpkins and things like that that'll vine around and just fill in this whole area. I will be putting some mulch in here as well. This is einkorn wheat, and einkorn is a kind of an ancient grain. It's kind of the original strain of wheat. It's a much healthier. There's not issues with gluten for people that are sensitive to that. It's just a much more nutritious and healthy grain. It's what kind of you'd find in like biblical times and things like that. This is the wheat that they were most likely growing, this strain, and through various means it's been preserved, and it's kind of making a comeback. A lot of people are using this and growing it. So we plan to try some this year and maybe expand our patch. So this kind of whole area right here is all einkorn. We were going to do the whole thing. We ran out of seed. So we're going to see how this goes. We'll take you guys along for that. This is the first time we've ever grown any type of grain, and we don't know what it's going to be like harvesting it and separating it and all that stuff. So it should be interesting. This is mainly zucchini, so I've planted kind of 9 mounds here in this little section. I've got a couple tomatoes on the corners, just because who really needs 9 zucchini plants? Probably 2 of them will produce more than we can handle, but we will do zucchini breads and we will freeze it and stuff like that. So we'll try to preserve as much as possible with that. So I've got, what do I have, 6 zucchinis in there and 3 tomatoes. And then over here I did some long rows in the center section, and this is all corn, this first row. So we did a lot of sweet corn this year. I've got corn there, and I've got 2 rows of corn over there, or 3 maybe, and that's more corn than we've ever done. So although you can't really preserve it, I suppose we could scrape it off and can it. We probably will just eat it all. It's sweet corn's awesome. So various kinds of replantable crops, I guess you'd say, or cut and come again crops. So I've got this whole row of carrots. I like to do a lot of carrots because you can preserve them and you can freeze them. We eat a lot of them. You can also preserve them right in the ground, which is pretty cool. So you can actually just cover this whole thing with like straw and come out here and harvest it right out of the ground in the wintertime, which is kind of nice. This is all, this row, what do we got? Swiss chard and spinach and kale. And then this whole first row is another row of carrots. So, and most everything else I think I already went through with you guys over here. Everything I planted, the potatoes and the broccoli and the cauliflower and onions and all that good stuff. And then of course up here we have the tomatoes and peppers. Now I also planted some of these yellow tomatoes over here, so these will kind of come up and be kind of colorful right next to the patio or whatever. So peas are coming up already up there, and we've got some of our strawberries that were donated to us from a friend that are coming out here pretty good as well. And in between sprinkler runs here, so back here I ended up going with some cayenne peppers. Excuse me, I did some cayenne peppers back here in this little area, and I'm gonna wood chip this. I'm just gonna wood chip this whole area in to keep all the grass down. I don't think I'll have time to really plant anything else back here this year, but that'll keep the soil real nice for next year. So that's pretty much it for the layout and planting this year. This will be, I've said this before, this is the biggest garden that we've ever had for our own consumption, but we're going to learn a lot through this year's production and canning and freezing and all that stuff. I tried to lay this out with a lot more space in mind, so I didn't crush everything together like I usually do with square foot gardening and with our suburban lot. Just because we had a lot more space here, I actually need to really come up with more things to plant, more varieties of stuff, and get, you know, really plan it out more next year. I did not do a very detailed computer drawing like I usually do. I usually do a diagram in Google SketchUp of the garden ahead of time. I didn't do that this year just because of time, but next year I may do that and really maximize the space in here and the sunlight and everything else. But it turned out really good. You know, we're happy with it. Actually, I have this spot here I could plant something in, so maybe we'll do, I don't know, any suggestions? What can I plant in June that would grow by September here in Michigan? We'll take some viewer suggestions on what to plant. So as always, you guys, if you have any questions or comments or suggestions about garden stuff, there's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming with this. We have a lot more videos to do. I've got cool trellis ideas. We're going to do a pallet fencing around here. So there'll be a lot of stuff, and we'll keep you updated on the growth and harvesting and all kinds of stuff with garden. So I love having the garden right outside the door. Just walk out here, any meal, grab what you need, go in and make it right fresh out of the garden. It's the best feeling to eat fresh, organic, no fertilizer, no pesticides, no chemicals, no nothing, just right out of the soil here. Can't get any healthier than that. So but if you guys want to follow along with that, hit the subscribe button. Also hit that little bell next to the subscribe button. That will allow you to get alerts whenever we post a new video. And hit that thumbs up button, guys. It makes a huge difference for me. As always, thanks for watching. Have a good one.